Slideshow. Live.
I'm going to jump on in just a second so I can see your slides.
Sure. Yeah, there's some good ones this week.
It better be.
Dun, dun, dun. Dee-dee-dum, bum, 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 bum. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Just 1 minute and we'll be starting. Let's set this up nicer. Well, definitely. No, it's not.
It was recording a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see what you did. You just turned off the recording?
No, it should be recording. We'll make sure that it's not recording.
I think so. Say something?
Testing, 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 testing.
Oh,
There we go. Yeah, it's a little lag. If you mute that, it'll be a little.
no, I don't know. I just had to hear it, so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Shmuley, ready to roll?
Rock and roll, baby.
Shalom and good evening, and welcome to the final class of this Mishkan series, where today we'll be discussing the courtyard gate, entering the gate of the Mishkan. Very, very exciting. I think of all the teachings of the Mishkan that we received in the original classes, that this one was for me maybe the most impactful. And actually, in the original order of the classes, this was one of the first lessons. But I think having gone through all the different classes that we've done this round, it made sense to put it last, because it's like, once we put it all together, how do we think about now entering in? Okay, so today on the menu, we will start out with a review, as usual, of the past classes. We'll talk about how the gate of the Mishkan courtyard was constructed, and we will note something very special about the gate, that the way it's constructed, the gate is always open. However, the only way that we can enter it is by approaching it from the side. And we're going to discuss what this means specifically within our home, in entering into the realm and expression of Kedusha within our home and family relationships. But it's also a teaching which applies to everything in our life when we feel that we want to enter into the realm of joy, peace, success, everything good that we want to experience in life. So this is the gateway of how to enter it. And the secret to entering is approaching from the side. We'll explore a teaching from Rabbi Nachman that can bring us to a new level of depth in appreciating this concept. And we'll have a little bit of homework and look at some next steps for moving forward and think about where the next classes of the Mishkan, what the next class of the Mishkan might look like. So, Chaim, to a beautiful round of learning with everyone who's joined. Thank you all. I'm very happy that we've made it to this point. Okay. So to review, as we've discussed, that the construction and the service of the Mishkan was the fulfillment of the purpose of creation by creating a dwelling place for the Shechina, the divine presence, here in this physical world. As the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, says, V'zeh kol adam v'tachlit Briato Ubria Kol Olamot Elyonim V'Tachtonim Shie Lo Yisbara Dira V'Tachtonim. That this is all of man, all of the creation of man, and all of the purpose of the creation of all the worlds, the upper worlds and the lower worlds, that Hashem Yisbarach, that the Holy One, blessed be He, that the Creator, Master of the universe, should have a dwelling place here in this physical world. And this was accomplished first and primarily in the construction and service of the Mishkan. Later, it was finalized, eternalized in the stones of the construction of the base of Mikdash in Yerushalayim. However, this is not just a historical and future messianic vision, but it's relevant to each and every Jew in each and every moment of history, as the Shalach Kodesh says on the Pasuk, which teaches us the construction of the Mishkan, Vesuli Mikdash v'Shechanti b'Tocham, build me a Mikdash, a holy place, and I will dwell within it. We would expect it to say dwell within it, but it says b'Tocham, within them, and the Shalach Kodesh says within each and every Jew. So this creating a dwelling place for the Shechina is a task incumbent upon each and every Jew. And where's the primary place that we fulfill it? It's in our homes, in our family relationships, and most specifically the relationship between husband and wife. Like Rabbi Akiva says, if a husband and wife married, the Shechina dwells between them. And as our sages would describe the Jewish home as a Mikdash Me'at, a microcosmic Mikdash. When we integrate this spiritual blueprint of the Mishkan into our life, into our daily life, in our home life, it has the potential to fill our life with meaning and purpose, joy, abundance, and peace, as it is creating the most powerful vessel for bracha. How is it doing this practically? Because we are together with our spouse, with our wife, our husband, with our whole family as it is. We build a shared vision. We develop a shared language to communicate that vision. And we have an actual framework. We have practical steps to bring this vision from koach to poel, from potential into reality. When we do this, we achieve these three aspects of the Mishkan: the dwelling of the Shechina, the state of Kedusha, holiness, and the state of Shalom, peace. And the point where all these three concepts are joined together, we call our Mishkan vision, this is the beautiful and complete vision that we are developing for our life and transforming our life to be a dwelling place for the divine presence. When we put this Mishkan vision in the center of our life, so that every detail of our life, our work, our learning, our friends and community, our travel, and so on, everything is turning around this central hub of our Mishkan vision. So all of those different complex aspects of our life can come into harmony one with the other, just as the Mishkan itself was in the center of the Israelites' camp in the desert, and just as in the center of the Mishkan itself was the Aron HaKodesh, which within this mashal corresponds to our personalized Mishkan vision. And in order to open the space where we can complete the construction and service of the Mishkan in our personalized way, we need to create the boundaries, which is the walls of the Mishkan, which has been the primary focus of the last number of classes. And that this is based on the Mishkan vision that we want to create, defining what can be welcomed into and what needs to be kept out of our Mishkan. And just like in the Mishkan, that certain things and certain people were allowed in, and certain people were allowed into the courtyard, and certain people were allowed into the inner chambers. So too within our home as a Mishkan, we together with our spouse and our family need to have these clearly defined boundaries in order to have this space of Kedusha. how do we construct this boundary wall is through the pillars of the courtyard. And we went into a lot of detail on the construction of the pillars, how the pillar has a copper foundation into which was stood a acacia wood pillar, and that pillar had silver bands and a silver hook at the top, which was coated in gold. And we talked about how the copper foundation corresponds to our holy stubbornness. That was just the material on the chair. It corresponds to our stubborn holiness. Nechoshet is etymologically similar, shares the same shorish as the word nechishut, which means determination. And our sages would learn that the element of copper, nechoshet, is connected to the emotional power, we could say, of azut, of brazenness. And so when we say we are going to be stubborn in a holy way of fixing certain practices in our daily life for the purpose of building our Mishkan, that holy stubbornness is the concept of the copper foundation. Into that foundation, we stand up the pillar, which we talked about, the three pillars of the world of Torah, Avoda, and Gimlut Hasidim, the learning the Torah, the avoda of prayer, but also avoda in terms of our practical avoda of building up the world, of setting the world, of going to work, in Gimlut Hasidim, acts of kindness. And then at the top, the vav, the hook made of silver that's plated in gold, where the pillar would be attached to the meshwork linen tapestry that formed the actual wall of the courtyard. We talked about how this corresponds to connecting each of these pillars to our Mishkan vision. And from that hook the pillar would also be connected into the earth. So we're making that, joining the heavens and the earth from the Mishkan vision down to the very dust of the Mishkan, which had the power to elevate even the earth where the Mishkan stood to the holiness of Eretz Yisrael and the Beis HaMikdash. So, Baruch Hashem, we've covered a lot of material, and it's been a wonderful journey. And this leads us to what I think is a great final point for closing this chapter. You'll note there's a lot more to go in the Mishkan. There's the wash basin, there's the Mizbeach, the altar, there's the Kodesh, the holy chambers with the menorah, and the Shulchan with the Lechem Panim, and the Mizbeach of Ketorah, the golden altar of the incense, and the Kodesh Kadoshim, where the Aron HaKodesh is. Bezrat Hashem will have the opportunity to continue our learning in all these aspects. But one powerful lesson of the pillars is, as much as we have this inner desire as holy Jews to go straight to the Kodesh Kadoshim, that we want all of our lives to be filled with that inspiration of standing under the chuppah with our beloved. Nevertheless, the way that we make the container to receive the blessing of that intense joy is through the courtyard, which means our day-to-day life, right? We wake up, wash our hands, modeh ani, go to daven, go to learn, take the kids to school, go to work, wash the dishes, take out the trash. But really, when we can elevate all of these activities and infuse them with the inspiration of building the Mishkan and make the subtle changes so that they're all aligned to our Mishkan vision, this is the only path that we can reach to that deepest and highest and holiest level that our neshama is truly yearning for. And when we do, all of these simple activities can actually become infused with that most intense, immense, holiest light. And so we conclude our classes by exploring how, now that we have constructed the courtyard of the Mishkan, how do we enter into this courtyard? And I think it's also relevant to note that the courtyard was the space that was shayach, that was connected for each and every Jew, because in the end of the day, only the Kohanim would be the ones who entered into the inner chambers of the Mishkan, the Kodesh, the Heikal HaKodesh, and only the Kohen Gadol to the Kodesh Kadoshim. But every Jew had the potential to enter into the courtyards of the Mishkan. So may Hashem bless us to enter those courtyards. So what did the gateway of the courtyard look like? It says in the Torah, and at the gate of the courtyard shall be a screen, in Hebrew a masach, of 20 cubits, made of purple and crimson wool and twisted fine linen, the work of an embroiderer, their pillars 4 and their sockets 4. Let's take a quick look at this. So maybe this one has a better, I think this image gets it slightly better because we can't see all 4 pillars in the second image. So great. We can look closely at it. We see all the rest of the courtyard has the plain mesh linen wall. And then at the entranceway, we have what's called the masach, which is these 4 pillars, 20 cubits with a special embroidered wall. And it was set forward several paces from the rest so that the entryway is from the sides, right? And so it's not a door like we think of it, but it's marking the boundary of the entry point. And the way that you could enter was by coming in the side, and there's this little passageway that lets you go in. And so what does that mean? That there's this little passageway, that it's not a door, that it's this screen that's called a masach. It was a few meters forward to make this boundary point, the mechitza, between outside and inside the Mishkan courtyard. And if you would approach the Mishkan way, it would appear that there is no way to enter, right? It would just look like a wall with a slightly more decorative point in the center. But if you move to the side and face this masach from an angle, you could then clearly see that there was the entry point. What does that mean? Often, we might feel or believe that we have no access to holiness, to our own holiness inside, or to the Shechina in our lives. Maybe we think that we made too many mistakes or sins, we have too much baggage or memories weighing us down and preventing us from being connected. Maybe we feel very far away from Hashem, and perhaps we believe that if we want to access holiness, we need to act a certain way, to be some kind of holy person, or go to a certain place to serve Hashem, like to go to a shul or a building somewhere outside the camp. Right? We see this is how the rest of the world thinks of what the world might call spirituality, that you have to go out somewhere to access spirituality, right? All of the different religions of the world, they have their special places with a monastery or monks high on a mountain or an isolated island. And if someone really, really wants to come close to God and their mistaken conception of the world, they have to go out there. Not so, says Torah and the Mishkan, is that the Mishkan is right at the center of the camp. Not only that, but it's always open. So the gate of the Mishkan is coming to teach us that in every moment, in every place, we are able to enter the realm of holiness, the realm of Kedusha, to enter a life of peace, abundance, and joy. But how do we enter? By changing our approach to where we feel stuck, we can reveal openings to come through our illusions and enter the Mishkan. when we look at how the entrance into the Mishkan courtyard, while it is permanently open, but it also creates a very real-looking illusion of there not being any entry point at all. It appears to be totally closed. To find this entry point, we must look at it from an angle and go in from the sides. What does it mean to look at things from an angle, and what are the sides that we go in from? Coming at things from an angle means to come through our illusions. We can compare to our homes. It's exactly the same thing. Inside the home is our own Mishkan. But on a certain level, we can't come straight in. We need to come in an angle. We need to come through the illusions. In fact, this is the challenge for everyone in life, that we want to go in our Mishkan, inside our home, because the home is a place where my neshama lives. And I have some illusion that because of my mistakes, my past, my sins, everything that's been in my past, that blocks me from coming in. When I'm outside, I want to come inside. And when I come close, I say to myself, it's not possible to enter. So this illusion of everything that we have in our physical and emotional vision, it stops us at this moment. It seems like there's no way to enter into the Mishkan. In this situation, we have to say, okay, but let's see by the side how I can come in. Because the illusion looks real. Like in a movie set, when you see a street, it's all made of wooden painting, but it looks like a street. So too, everything in our lives that can be very practical and logical that says, it's not possible to enter into this beautiful life that we've imagined in our Mishkan vision. But that concept of impossibility is only an illusion. Now, if you want to fight with what looks to you like the bad parts inside of you, there's no way to win. There's no path to make it through. The way is closed. If you have something that you feel very weak about in your avodas Hashem, in your connection to Shechina, in your tefillah, your prayer, your home, your peace, your relationships, everything that's in your life, what's our natural first reaction? Immediately we say, I want to fix this thing, because that's the thing that we need to fix. This is the thing that's blocking me from entering into my Mishkan, into my beautiful life that I really want to live. And what do we see that people do? What do we see ourselves do? We see something's not working, something's a little bit broken in our home, and we want to come straight at it. And what happens? So we say, it doesn't go. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to enter from the side. The sides are the things that are already good in our home, in our life. In a relationship, there are many things that are beautiful and working. And our job is to expand those points and to forget temporarily where the problem is. Because fixing our attention on the problem will most likely cause it to zip from 30% to 300% intensity. The first step is to release the intensity, releasing ourselves from an obsessional process. Everyone is involved in some kind of obsessional process. Obsession is something that comes again and again and again, and it takes more and more attention and energy each time. This is when we focus on the one or two problems, the things that just aren't working. They don't work any better by focusing on them. It just blows the problem up instead. Rabbi will give a great example of this, which is that his son-in-law, I believe, came to them one holiday and had a really bad problem in his leg, right? He just couldn't move his leg at all. And so he says, okay, lie down on the floor on top of this stretchy thing and start moving your arm here and your shoulder. He's like, what? My arm, my shoulder? He said, it's my leg that's bothering me. But if you ask someone who's a physical therapist or a massage therapist, this is not just a theoretical concept, but when we have a point of non-functionality, of pain within the body, the way that we can heal that is by strengthening, working, stretching everything that surrounds that. And it's counterintuitive first, right? Because if my back is sore over here, my natural reaction is I'm going to want to stretch out my back over here, right? Mm-hmm. But really, the most effective and direct way to take care of that issue is by working everything that surrounds it. And even to the point, if I focus immediately on the point that's in pain, there's a real potential to make it even worse and even more stuck. Okay, a very important note as we continue in this concept, that this concept of entering from the side certainly does not mean ignoring a problem, right? Because we shouldn't take this as a license to say, okay, this thing that maybe is not so good, I'm just going to completely pretend like it doesn't exist. That's most definitely not a healthy way. To give an example, we had our kitchen sink all clogged up, and I tried to do it kind of the easy way, to like from the top to just loosen it up a little bit if it was clogged. Then I opened it up myself from the bottom and eventually found that it was really clogged underneath. We fixed it, thank God. But it's not going to help anything by just pretending like that issue doesn't exist. There's some things that we have to take a practical step to say, nope, this doesn't work and we're going to fix it. And even deeper, God forbid, in a relationship, if there are real issues of, God forbid, violence, whether it's verbal or emotional abuse, or God forbid, even physical violence, right? That's in no way should this concept be taken to say, just look at all the good things that are happening outside of that. There are absolutely situations in a relationship, minor or major, that sometimes we have to address. What is the point that we're really making here is that for what I think is safe to say, the vast majority of cases in our relationships where we have certain points that we become very focused to say, this is the issue that is making us a problem, right? And so, especially maybe as men, but this goes for sure both ways, our natural reaction is to say, okay, we are gonna deal with this issue. We're gonna fix it. And the most likely outcome from that is that issue just becomes more intense and a more focused point of contention. And suddenly we, God forbid, enter the realm of conflict instead of working together. So the secret of entering from the side is where we focus our energy and attention to build and enter our Mishkan, rather than trying to tear down the thing that seems to be standing in the way of entering, because it often comes to pass that when we shift to the side, we see that that thing that seems so enormous and monstrous, there may be something that has to be dealt with, but it suddenly doesn't have that intense emotional power, and we can just take care of it. Okay, so a wonderful teaching from Rabbi Nachman that addresses this point. And Rabbi Nachman brings a mashal in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. May the memory of the holy man and tzaddik be a blessing, about a king who placed a great treasure in a certain place, and using the power of illusion, enclosed the treasure with many walls. When the people came to these walls, it seemed to them that the walls were real and difficult to breach. Some immediately turned back. Others broke through the first wall and reached the second one, but could not breach it. A few broke through further, but could not breach the rest. Finally, the prince arrived and said, I know that all the walls are only an illusion. In reality, there isn't any wall at all. He proceeded confidently until he had passed through them all. One who is wise will understand the mashal on his own as referring to all the obstacles, lures, and enticements, which conceptually are walls surrounding the treasure of God-fearingness. In reality, all of these walls are nothing. The main thing is a mighty and courageous heart. And then one has no obstacles, especially the physical kind, such as on the account of money, or those of its wife, children, father-in-law, or parents put in his way, or something similar. They are all completely nullified when one's heart is mighty and courageous for Hashem. And even a warrior's strength stems only from the might and courage of the heart. His heart's exceptional might enables him to charge in the thick of the battle, as is brought in the Holy Sfarim. Okay, so now we have the power to move forward and enter into our Mishkan. As we read in one of the most famous chapters of Tehillim, number 100, Mizmor the Todah, it concludes, Bo sherav b'todah, hatzerotav b'tila, hodu lo baruch shemo, ki tov Hashem le'olam hasdo, v'yador v'dor emunato. So come into his gates with thanksgiving, with gratitude, into his courtyards with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name, because Hashem is good, his kindness is forever, and until generation after generation is his emunah, his faith. So what's the David HaMelech is giving us here? The key to enter into the gates and enter into the courtyards, he's saying it very directly, is we can enter Bo sharav be Todah. So Todah, with gratitude, with acknowledgement for all the things that are good, that are beautiful, that are flowing, that are joyous in our life. That's how we enter into the gate. That's how we enter into the side. Suddenly this impenetrable obstruction that is the illusion that's telling me it's not possible to enter into this beautiful life of joy and holiness. When I go from the side, by turning my attention to all the things that are good and right and beautiful and joyous and flowing, it opens, suddenly there's the opening to enter. So that's the homework, is to start a list of everything that is good and flowing in your life, in your home, in your relationship. When you discover something new, add it to your list. And take a moment each day to read a little bit from this list and thank Hashem for all these good things in your life, and explore practically how you can add and strengthen all of these good things, because that in the end is the key to enter into the Mishkan. So that concludes the first section of the Mishkan series. May Hashem bless us to enter into the gates of the Mishkan b'todah, with gratitude, and to know that we have this eternal access point to the divine presence, to the Shechina, to our neshama, to this place of our relationship with our spouse, with our wife, with our husband, where our neshamot are unified. We always have the potential to enter into it, and when we put in the practical day-to-day work of building up our pillars, building up our Mishkan courtyard, then we can enter, and may Hashem bless us to really enjoy that and to rejoice and share that joy with our loved ones and with our families, and to shine that joy and holiness outward to the world. And on a fine, yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Have a beautiful evening.
Yeah. Hi.
Time.